welcome everyone. This is Puff and Pass. You're listening to our first session of our podcast today. It's nice to have everyone listening in and watching, whatever your preferred method of that is. My name is Miriam. I'm 19 years old, and I'm going to introduce you to the rest of the table and get to know everyone a little bit.
Yo, what up everyone? My name's Ty. People call me Skeptic the Rapper. I'm a local performer, and as the name suggests, I'm a local rapper. Here to help out in any way that I can. Thanks for having me today.
Thank you.
My name's Taylor. I'm a student at Specialised Assistance School for Youth. I'm 19.
Hi, my name's Bella. I'm 18 years old. Hang out with these people, so I know them.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Bella. Appreciate having you guys here today. So before we get into it today, I'd just like to cover quickly what we're going to be talking about. There's going to be some sensitive content probably brought up during this. We're all open. We're all just here for a nice conversation to bring some awareness and break some stigma. We're going to be talking about drugs, substance use. There's probably going to be mentions of family violence or breakdown. I just wanted to bring that up in case that it's a bit sensitive for some people. If you think that maybe you need someone to sit down, like an adult or a friend that you can go to, or a teacher or a care worker or someone like that, if you just want to have someone sit down with you so that you've got support if you start feeling a certain way, so you can bring it up to someone, just know that we're all here for you. This is all a friendly, calm environment, and we're all here for the same thing. We've all been through the same thing. We're all here for the same thing, all for the same cause. So with that being said, if we're all ready to get into it, I'm going to get into it a little bit. So, as I said, my name's Miriam. I'm 19. I've been doing this we've been calling it LDAT. We've been doing this little podcast for a while now. It's basically what we're trying to cover is substance and drug use in Adelaide amongst youth. So we're talking the things about hygiene and safety and, where to get, knowing how to look for resources that provide information on safe drugs, or if you wanted to get clean, or if you're looking for what's in your drugs or stuff like that, just getting that information out there and breaking down a lot of the stigma that young people have surrounding drug use in Adelaide, because it's everywhere. Like, you can't deny that it's everywhere. You're in absolute denial if you have anything other to say than that, because you only have to walk down any street in Adelaide, unfortunately, and you'll see it there. So I'll start throwing out some questions if you guys just want to, whatever.
Great.
So Ty, probably hit you first, my man.
Yo.
Do you currently use any substances, if you don't mind me asking?
Borderline, I do. I still drink a lot, but due to some problems, I've had to cut my smoking down drastically. But I think smoking has been a part of my life, or cannabis use has been a part of my life since, as long as I can remember. It's probably been a big part of my life. So, do
you remember how old you were the first time you were around that sort of stuff?
That's a good question. I could have been around 10 or 11 years old, and it just happens. I guess sometimes family can contribute to that sort of thing.
For sure.
So for a long while now, I'm 17 at the moment, so good 7 years it's been a part of my life.
No, so you're pretty, know your stuff, been around a little bit.
No, that's right.
Your age.
That's right.
Yeah, for sure. No, awesome. You got any friends who use it at the moment?
Well, being a teenager who spent a lot of their time at Woodville High School, you tend to be exposed to a lot of these things, and especially if you're going to a lot of parties, which, being in our youth, that tends to happen a lot.
For sure.
You get exposed to it quite easily. And unfortunately, the matter of fact is you can walk down the street, as you said previously, and it's just there.
Yeah, it's just in your face, isn't it?
That's right. Maybe you won't notice it until you keep an eye out for it,
sure.
but it's definitely there.
For sure. It's always there. You can't get away from it, unfortunately. It's very sad. Right. So just on what you've maybe taken in the past and stuff, just so we can get to know each other a bit better on a more personal level.
Yeah, great.
So just smoking, drinking mainly.
Yeah, well, cannabis, as I said previously, was it's been a big part of my life.
But you're not smoking at the moment?
No, not consistently right now, no. There might be a small time where I may break a little bit, but unfortunately as well, that's what happens when you become so adjusted and when you start normalizing things as drug use.
For sure.
It's kind of hard to say that you've fully eliminated that sort of thing.
To break away from that sort of lifestyle.
No, exactly that. But I've been exposed to a lot of things. Ecstasy was a very fun, or what I would call a very fun experience growing up in school. A lot of my friends were taking that, and obviously...
so how old are you guys around then?
I was about 15 or 16 when I heavily got into it. And you become a product of your environment. So when you start hanging around people who treat this as such a normal thing, you kind of tend to do the same yourself. After that, I started venturing around with the use of acid, LSD, which was definitely an experience. But I don't think that would have came like without the use of mushrooms. So a lot of your two main psychedelics is definitely what introduced me to that sort of thing for sure.
So you've had a bit of a party with everything, bit of a run-in with a lot of it, you know, you've been around, seen what it does, know what it looks like.
No, exactly that, yeah.
Yep, awesome. Now, all right, Bella, so we briefly introduced you before. Thanks for coming in today, Bella. Really appreciate having you here. You don't have to answer this, obviously, but do you mind me asking if you currently use any substances?
I do.
Yeah. And are they, well, when I say substances as well, just so everyone knows, this is prescribed, illicit, like whether it's actual pharmaceutical medication or it's recreational use, alcohol. Like when I say substances and drugs, it's the whole category there because unfortunately pharmaceutical medication is a big drug problem amongst youth. So back onto you, Bella. Do you mind me asking what you use at the moment?
I do smoke quite a bit of cannabis.
Yeah.
It's kind of become a ritual every day. So
what would you say brought that upon?
Well, I actually tried cannabis when I was younger, probably about 14. And I didn't like it too much.
First time wasn't so great.
Well, I didn't feel much, so I was like, nah. But then I started having PTSD, and someone brought it up to me that it can help with PTSD.
Okay. So you kind of turned to it for a coping mechanism in a way.
Yes.
Yeah, like a method to help you deal with
just
stuff,
to help me sleep and stuff.
Yeah, just be a bit more relaxed, get to bed at night and stuff. Yeah, for sure.
So I was introduced really around my 16th birthday.
Yeah.
I had tried it a couple times before like that, but that's when I started. And then I started pretty much every day.
So at the moment you are a recreational user? Like you'd say you're still quite often?
I do. I use every day still.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Appreciate your honesty, Bella. Thank you.
I did cut off for a while. But yeah.
That's all right. That's all right.
Again.
Thank you for that. I really appreciate it. So is it more of a social thing for you or would you do it without your friends around anyway? Like,
it's pretty private actually for me.
Okay.
Like I know that you as a mate know that I have for quite a while.
Yeah.
But
it's not really something that you're open about.
I don't really just bring it up to people
for sure. Now,
anything.
On that question, when you guys meet new people, whether it be new peers or a new caseworker or something like that, do you guys ever feel that you can't say that you're a user because you're automatically going to get judged straight off the bat? And like I'm talking in situations where it matters, like your caseworker or something, or your parent, or like it's a serious conversation and you have the opportunity to bring it up, but you just can't. Like, do you guys feel that there's a big stigma around you guys as drug users?
Like without a doubt, like that seems to be the last thing on the topic of conversation these days, just purely because of the stigma behind it.
For sure.
As soon as you say something like, I smoke weed, you kind of get the stigma of being, lazy, unmotivated.
Yeah, jobless. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly that.
Yeah, not going to school, doesn't have a job.
Plus, specifically, I don't want weed smoking to be one of my personality traits.
Yeah, for sure. There's more to you than that. Yeah, I get what you mean.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I definitely find that I had a point in my life where when I started, I had a therapist that didn't help me at all, just told me that, I need to stop and that it's messing up my therapy.
Yeah, God, yeah.
So, but...
See, and that's the thing with language can be really harmful when you're having conversations about these sorts of things. It needs to be normalised. Like, I know it's not really something you want to believe that's going on right under your nose, but it has to be normalised in order for a problem to be addressed. You have to admit there's a problem. Yep. And I find that a lot of adults, especially people who work in, police fields and school teachers and counsellors and stuff like that, a lot of the time it's just taboo. It's just, that's bad, don't do it. And it's like, yeah, I know it's bad and I know I shouldn't be doing it. How do I reach out for that kind of help, And I think that's why this podcast is really important, just getting that talk out there, just sitting down and having the talk about it, It's even hard to just sit down with your friends and just talk about how you're feeling and stuff. Like, because how often have you guys ever sat down with your mates and go, this is how we safely take drugs? This is, you know, have you ever had that sort of conversation, or do you guys just sort of jump into it? Like,
not often enough.
Yeah.
Maybe there'll be one person who dabbles in it a lot, so you trust their word for it.
You just take their opinion for it, sort of thing.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. You guys got anything to add to that?
Definitely recently for me, I haven't cared too much.
Yeah.
So I did dabble in something that I'm not used to. I tried Xanax and I actually really enjoyed it, but I could see it becoming a problem for me.
Okay, so you try to bite it on the head and just get over it before it even became a sort of issue.
I knew that it could become an issue.
Yeah.
But definitely something that I think people don't think about too much, that like also people do drugs to escape.
Yeah, for sure. There's always a reason for that, yeah.
Trauma or just to forget.
For sure. One thing that I was taught last year, and no, you're right, I live my life by this now, just to say that I agree with what you're saying. Anything other than love is a cry for help. And I completely believe in that wholeheartedly. Humans want to love. They want to be social creatures. They want to hang out together. They want to be able to do things together. If your friends aren't being themselves, or, you know, the drugs are getting a hold of them, anything other than love's a cry for help. And you want to be able to communicate with your teachers and your caseworkers and tell them what's really going on in your life. But with so much stigma and everything surrounding it, it's really hard to break out for that. But I think recognizing when your friend is crying out for help is really important, because a lot of the time, I found anyway, I don't know if you guys agree or disagree with this, but I found a lot of the time when my friends, or myself even, have been deep in the rabbit hole with drugs and their drug use. Maybe they're not going to school, they're eating less, like spending their pay on drugs, like they're not prioritizing their mental health and stuff. A lot of the time, you don't want to go, hey, I feel like shit and I've got a bit of a drug problem, you know, like that. Who wants to do that? Who wants to admit they have a problem and, you know, I need help? Like, that's really hard to do. So I think knowing those signs of being able to read your friends and family and people close to you is really important, so that you can make those active steps to reach out and you can make sure that everyone's okay and, you know, everyone's feeling all right. Because as Bella said, a lot of people turn to drugs as an escape. When we were actually doing the interviews at Parkfest, I had a really amazing opportunity during Youth Week there, and I got to write up a few questions, take them out and go hound everyone. It was absolutely amazing. Got some brilliant info back that day. But we were talking about what led people to taking drugs for the first time. And just, I'd say 90% of the time it was, I felt like shit. Long story short was, I felt like shit and I could access it, because that's how easy it is to access in Adelaide. And I think knowing when and how, like knowing all those things about taking drugs is really important, because if you're in a bad mood and then take something, you can obviously just make it worse for yourself, and then you reach out for that feeling all the time. You look for that horrible down feeling because you think that it's normal. You think that's what you deserve to feel because you're just so used to it. But if we just normalized it a little bit more and spoke about it a little bit more, there'd be way more opportunity for youth to not even get to that stage. You know what I mean? I think a question I really like asking people, like, so that I can relay this information to older people who might be listening or interested in this sort of stuff. Have you guys, is there a certain circumstance or time that happened that you can think of where you tried to reach out for your drug use and were just completely shot down, like just told, get over it, you're a drug addict, you know drugs are bad for you, stop taking drugs? Like, do any of you guys have an example of maybe you reaching out to a parent or something like that?
Maybe slightly different. But I encountered a situation where I'm in a social group. There's about 6 of us. We're all in the same room. We've spent 4 weeks in this room. Like, obviously, we leave and come back, like, whatever. But pretty much every day at night, we ended up in this room, off our heads, smoking dope, passing out. We're not even talking to each other anymore. Music's whatever it is. It just sounds like white noise in the background. We're not paying attention to anything. I kind of sat to myself there for the first time, and that's when I was like, is this all we really do? And I kind of mention it. I kind of get up. I try to get everyone's attention. I'm like, look, surely there's more to like a daily routine than just this. Like, sure, we do other things. Like, a lot of us have a lot of sport practices. A lot of us have a lot of like art hobbies, etc. We have other things to do during the day.
Yeah.
But why do we always end up back here in the same spot, in the same brain dead routine? Like, what are we doing with ourselves?
In the same state, yeah.
I feel like my social group wasn't too happy with that. Maybe one or two of them were like, yeah, maybe you're right.
Yeah.
Maybe we should do something else. Like, we should have more of an excuse to hang out than to just smoke weed with each other, you know? So, and then the other majority, so the minority were the people who were just like, yeah, maybe you're right. But the rest of them were like, nah, shut up. Like, stop trying to kill the vibe.
Yeah, like you ruin everyone's mood, man.
That's
like, don't be a
right.
party killer.
That,
yeah,
exactly
for sure.
that. Like, stop.
And how did that make you feel, man?
It made me feel like shit. And it also kind of made me wake up a little bit. And that's kind of when I realized, if we weren't smoking weed, would we still be hanging out? Like, would our social encounters be a little bit different?
Yeah.
Would we be a bit different around each other? Like, what should we be doing instead?
So you're saying so basically what you're saying is it kind of hit you for a moment there that most of the relationships you had in the room were built around substance and drug use.
Exactly
and
that.
they weren't on person-to-person actual relationships.
Exactly that. We shared one common denominator, and that was a bong with a bit of green in it.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And how old were you guys, like the age group?
Very
roughly?
recently. So I would have either been 16 or just turning 17.
Yeah, and your friends around you, like...
Maybe a little bit younger, but it's kind of a bit varied with that sort of thing. When you have a social group of smoking weed, you don't have to be in the same year level. You don't have to be the same age. Again, if you're sharing that common denominator of what you're doing,
it's like food or music, really.
Exactly that.
Yeah, for sure.
So there was no age for it. So we had a couple of us in their 20s. We had a couple of us just past 15.
Yeah. So it's a normal thing. Like, I think it is, but I'm asking you. So you guys agree that it's kind of a normalized thing for minors and adults to be participating in drug use together?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I see it quite a bit. Not usually, and it's usually not, I find, from what I've seen, not malicious.
Yeah,
either.
for sure. There's no bad intent. But like Ty was saying, they all happen to share a common denominator.
It's just kind of, they all get along.
Yeah, for sure. They have something to talk
sort
about
of,
and sit down with. Yeah.
Normally there's no more than a 10-year gap between them anyway.
Yeah,
Between the age group.
definitely. But yeah, when you're 14 hanging out with 24-year-olds.
Doesn't sound very responsible.
Like when other adults are going to hear that, they're going to think, well, that's not right. Kids and adults shouldn't be hanging out together.
Yeah.
But again, as Ty said, it's because there's a common drug
And some of those adults are trying to supply a safe using area for those kids because they know that otherwise they're just going to be on the streets doing it.
Like a hygienic place.
Yeah.
On the reverse of that, though, I've noticed even I've sort of hung around a younger crowd because they've just had so much easy access to it.
For sure.
And when you're fiending for a hit, you don't really care who you're with.
Who you get it from.
As
where
long
it
as you're
comes,
getting it into your hands.
Definitely.
I've definitely been a little bit poor with looked at myself and gone, look, like, that's not right. Like, I shouldn't be talking to younger kids.
Enabling.
I've talked to young kids practically, you know, and it's weird to look back on it and go, that could be my cousin or that could be
my little sister or something.
Yeah.
The way that I like, now being 18, I wouldn't say adult, but as a 19-year-old who does hang out with younger people, I'm trying to get into work where I'm trying to be an inspiration to younger kids. So I can't just go doing that sort of thing with students and young kids and stuff. And I have found since I've turned 18, 19, a lot of my friend group has changed because I've had to tell multiple 14 to 17-year-olds, I can't be buying you cigarettes. I can't be buying your alcohol. Like, I can't be enabling that. But at the same time, that's really difficult for me because when I was younger, I was going to take drugs either way. So if I didn't have that parental figure to go, get in my house where you're not in a car park at 4 o'clock in the morning with random men you've never met, I probably would have had a lot more dangerous things happen. Like, more dangerous situations arise. Not that I was always the safest drug user, but I had a lot of safety and comfortability around where I was allowed to use. Unfortunately, when I was younger, it was very common in my household. It was not a abnormal thing to at least have a cigarette in your mouth all the time. Like, I've had weed around me since before I can remember. Both my parents have dabbled in harder drug use. They've been clean since me and my sibling have been around, but I've always had it in my face. Do you know what I mean? It's been such a normal thing for me. So when I'm turning away young kids at the same time, it's like I feel like I have to take them in my wings so they're not out putting themselves in danger with people who don't care if they overdose or don't care if they're using dirty bongs or dirty needles or stuff like that, or not testing their drugs and stuff, you know. Like the other day I had a conversation with a 15-year-old. He's been using like MDMA for about a year and he's never even heard of a testing kit before. Like, this is the type of stuff that's going on in our streets. And the adults know that we have these sorts of things. They just don't want to normalize that access, because unfortunately what they think is they go, oh, once they can access it, that's all they're going to care about. So there's not a lot of option there, you know, for people to look out and reach out for what they're trying to, you know, achieve, whether it's to cut down on drugs and substance use or move on to a different substance or whatever for now. Like, because I know that supplementing things for things isn't always the best, but there's things like the methadone program that have helped thousands of people. Like, really just, you got to pick your poison and you just have to be safe about it and be careful. Make sure you're with safe people and stuff. Just before Bella, because I'd like to ask you this one, and Taylor in a minute if you'd like to chime in, on the reaching out to someone and maybe having it like put back in your face sort of thing. Like, have you ever had that with a parent or a social? I know you brought up your psychologist before.
Definitely, just probably not shut down, but like probably not taken
seriously,
or just kind of taken as, you should just get over this. This isn't an addiction. This isn't anything.
You know, it's a problem. Get over it. Yeah, kind of what you were told.
I don't want to name any family members, but I've definitely had family members come to me and kind of act like, why do you need to smoke?
Yeah.
Even though they have their own addictions, such as smoking cigarettes and...
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, that stigma really gets in the way of being able to communicate why you're doing what you're doing. Like, obviously, in that sense, like you said before, when people reach out to drugs for a certain reason, when you can't even communicate that to each other, there's that barrier. Like, there wasn't that stigma. At least you and your family would be able to relate about something, even if it's not the same substance or drug or whatever. At least you could relate about the feeling of it.
I definitely find that it was really hard to get acceptance from my family.
Yeah.
As having people in my family do harder drugs before, I have seen what goes on. I've had awful experiences having to deal with people coming down off hard drugs.
Yep, I've seen both sides of it.
Yeah,
for sure. The using, the being high, and the coming down. Like, you've had to go through all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is really hard as with my family. I don't think they really 100% understand how mental health can affect. Like, they know that it can affect it, but
how it might influence that.
Yeah. And especially when I was, 16-ish, like, it was something I kept quite private, eventually got out. And people really weren't happy with me at all. And
did you lose a lot of friends?
I didn't lose friends. I actually seemed to make friends.
Yeah, because you had something new to relate with.
Yeah.
Like Ty was saying before with his group of friends.
Yeah, I found that also I kind of used it as a personality thing. That's pretty much a lot of what I focused on when I started was
smoking and being high and that feeling, like chasing that feeling all the time.
My mother did know and kind of monitored me in a little bit. But it definitely got to a point where she was like, look, this is happening every day and I'm not a fan of it.
Yeah.
And I could understand her worry. Like, you don't want to look at yourself as a parent and go,
what have I done to make my kid?
My kids turn to drugs and I'm just letting them do drugs.
For sure. You feel like shit,
But I think there needs to be communication between people, and also realizing what is going on with someone mentally, or
I think it should be mandatory for all adults and social workers and teachers to have a sort of sit down with people like us, so we can actually tell you how we're thinking and feeling about it, and you can actually understand what's going on. Because like I said, that first response is so important. I unfortunately know a younger peer of mine who within the last few weeks, he's health, like mental health, physical health, it's all just deteriorated at such a rapid pace because he's just in town taking drugs every day. There's videos of him going around. Like, this kid's 14. Like, he's literally a child. He was the most beautiful kid I'd ever met. Like, had a really good pass with this kid. Know him personally, you know what I mean? And now I can't even say hi to him when he walks past me in the street anymore because it hurts me that much. Like, seeing what state he's in, it's that heartbreaking that you just think, where did he go wrong? Like, how did he get to that? How could he have ever possibly have got to that? But it is what it is. And because he didn't have an appropriate first response and he didn't have an adult or friend to sit down with him and go, you know, mate, are you maybe dabbling in this sort of stuff because you're not feeling so good? Like, is there something you want to talk about? Because he never had that. He just kept feeling like shit and just kept chasing that high to get rid of the shit feeling all the time. And now he's brain dead at 14. Like,
it's definitely a problem. The feeling of wanting to forget everything.
For sure.
I find because sorry to go back onto this, but when I tried Xanax, I found that after I had a fear because I didn't know what happened at all.
Okay.
Don't remember how I got home.
Yeah.
Don't remember anything.
God, that's terrifying, isn't it?
And it's texting my friend the next day going, did I just sleep through it?
Oh, wow. Yeah,
So,
like, you don't even know what you're doing at the time. Like, yeah, that's crazy scary for sure.
Yeah, so it's definitely also people hiding it and stuff too.
Like hiding their drug use.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I know people who have been taking drugs for multiple years and certain substances and their parents have no idea. And they still live at home with their mum and dad. And, like, their parents have no idea that their friends are participating in drug use. That was my situation for a long time. But unfortunately, when I tried to bring up my drug habit to people in my family, instead of it being addressed, it was enabled. And I was handed bags of weed and money to do that. And I was told, as long as you're doing it at home with me, you're safe. But unfortunately, I was a 12-year-old girl. My brain was being held back by it and everything. I wasn't going to school, wasn't eating properly. All I cared about was feeling high. And 12-year-olds can't get high all day. Like, it's not good for them. It's not good for their mental health or physical health. But Taylor, if you want to chime in at the moment, on the reaching out thing, I think, so no, you know, I think everyone has a story to tell about that. So if you want to chime in with maybe something like that.
Personally, not drug related in a way, but mental illness or mental health wise, I guess. I remember as like in primary school as a kid, talking about, like, just saying, kind of wondering maybe why I wasn't able to focus as well as all the other kids in class, coming out to my dad like, I wonder maybe if I've got ADHD or ADD, and it was pretty much just shut down as, nah, there's nothing wrong with you.
Yeah, like, not
and
my
then
child. No daughter of mine has anything wrong with her.
So pretty much from then on, it was kind of like, well, there's nothing wrong with me.
So how long again did it take you to sort of be able to have that conversation? Are you and your dad able to have that conversation now?
Still can't. It's still hard to talk about.
And you said that was
it,
primary school, was it?
Yeah, I would have been all of about 7 or 8.
And you're year 12 now, we'll say, for the example. Yeah, and you still can't sit down and have that conversation with your dad.
Why I've struggled throughout my whole schooling, and that's probably been a reason for it, at least something like that. And I was never checked out to see if there was
because that
something
stigma
there.
was there again. Only, unfortunately, a lot of the time with mental health and drug use, because I feel they tie in with each other very heavily, a lot of the time parents don't want to believe it's there. They don't want to admit that, because the thing is with that sort of thing, most of the time something has to happen bad enough for you to feel that way. And whether that's having your teddy bear taken away or family breakdown, violence, like, your trauma is your trauma, you know what I mean? Depending on what it is, a lot of parents, they don't want to admit, they don't want to think about, maybe they have to admit the fact that they weren't there. Even if they weren't supervising you, they're letting you hang out with someone they thought was a good friend, or they let you hang out with the auntie who enabled your drug use or something like that. Like, a lot of the time parents don't want to have that conversation because they don't want to go, oh shit, I might have encouraged this a little bit and I'm sorry that I didn't reach out earlier. But then that happens and everyone just spirals down a big hole and people are
Of
addicted to
guilt
drugs and
shame.
yeah,
and
exactly. And then you have situations where family functions come and there's that one cousin who smokes weed that no one talks to. And you only see him at family occasions and he just sits there at the table and doesn't talk to anyone. Like, what kind of life is that? What kind of relationship is that, you know, with your family and
personally,
friends?
it was like I was one of the first and only kids in my family to start smoking weed. My dad has smoked weed since he was a teenager, so it's been around me my entire life. But as soon as, say my auntie, his sister found out, it was, I was almost compared to how it affected my dad and
Okay.
lots of comparison to how it's affected other people.
Yeah.
And I've just had I've heard so many adults comparing other people's experiences with it, and it's like, well, you don't understand that it affects everyone differently.
Yeah, for
Do you
sure.
mind if I chime in quickly on
Please
this
do.
subject?
Please do.
But I know exactly what you mean by they compare what they've seen already
Yeah.
to
And they don't know what you are
yeah.
personally
See,
going
and with-
through and why you're using
I'd say with the
it.
drug culture, seeing all the rappers on lean and stuff, you know, your parents look at that and they
Yeah.
go, fuck, that's what my kid's going to turn out like. They're going to
Yeah.
have piercings and dreads and face tattoos and they're going to be drinking lean every day and smashing cars. Like, that's not what I want for my child. You know, they see that a lot of the time and that's with that comparing thing, like that stigma. There's no actual...
Yeah,
No, they
it's
just-
like
yeah.
with piercings. When I started asking for piercings, I was told you won't get a job. You're just a drop kick. Like,
yeah,
just
for
gonna,
sure, for sure. No, the drug culture is a big problem, but it's ironic to talk about saying drug culture is a problem because we feed into it. You know, by supporting those artists and watching those music clips and, you know,
The problem is the
liking
way
Instagram
it's treated.
photos. Yeah, for sure, for sure.
the way they
it's
publicize
how
it.
it's kind of glamorized.
It definitely is. It's rock and roll to take drugs. It's punk to take drugs, you know?
I totally agree. At my last live show, for example, as soon as I finished my set, there's like a 5-10 minute break between each set.
Yeah.
I finished my set, and the second I'm off stage, all the local artists are coming up to me. Hey, you trying to roll up a joint? Are you trying to have a little smoke? We'll sneak outside quickly. And you're kind of under this pressure because, like, with rap culture, you're rapping about stuff like that.
For
You're
sure.
rapping about all the
You're not
weed you
rapping
smoke.
about rainbows and fairies when
No,
you're on
you're
stage.
right.
Yeah.
You're right. You're
Yeah.
right. So you're kind of under like this pressure of saying, well, if I say no, I'm gonna like look like that guy who just raps about stuff to be cool about it, even though that's what I grew up with.
Yeah.
If I'm still not a part of it now, it's gonna look like I was never a part of it at all.
like you're a poser or a fake.
No,
like you're not really a part of the culture.
Exactly that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if I turn down this situation that's handed right in front of me, I'm gonna look like a bit of a square, you know?
So just on that, just while it's running through my brain, you'd agree you're a pretty confident person when
Oh,
you,
yeah.
Yeah, but you'd also in the same sentence, you would agree that peer pressure is still a problem.
Oh yeah,
you know?
without a doubt. See,
For
I've
sure.
you know, for example, the whole escaping your problems to like, you know, do drugs to like escape your problems sort of thing. Mine's sort of been a bit on the reverse where like I've needed to be in more social situations, like to include myself. I feel like I have to be like these other people and obviously like
Live their lifestyle and
really sucks going to parties these days. You wouldn't believe how common MDMA is. You wouldn't believe how
Young too.
common that
Young.
these little plastic pills full of shards inside. People think it's such a cool new thing, and you look like an idiot if you're not taking it in front
yeah,
of these people.
exactly.
You know?
So I think some stuff that's really good coming from people who have actually had drugs and substances in their past and stuff, you know. Are there anything like tips or tricks or whatever in particular that you guys do use to keep safe? Like, is there any sort of things that you've learned?
I definitely sounds weird, but I don't just go to whoever off the street.
Yeah. You, so
office
you
drugs.
don't buy your drugs from random people.
No,
Yeah.
I'm actually quite particular. I'm quite
No,
a
good.
particular person.
Good.
I like good quality stuff.
Yeah.
Sounds a little picky, but
No, it's safe.
Fair enough.
It's safe.
and
It's
good.
if
Yeah.
I know where it's coming from, good place. You know, I don't ever judge people from where it's
Definitely.
coming from
Yeah.
either.
So know where your drugs are coming
But
from.
know where
Yeah.
they're coming from. Know that it's a good source. Because especially with drugs like MDMA and stuff, it like
they mix it with
other stuff.
substances.
And with the amount of access to it, obviously there's going to be counterfeits everywhere. Like when
100%.
things get popular and people want them and they're willing to spend money on them and they're that easy to access, there's going to be counterfeit whatever anywhere.
I know this is kind of random, but they're also the drugs from online.
Like
Discord. I've seen people get drugs through the mail before.
I've actually heard of within
Uber
recent
drugs,
months people
man.
getting
Uber
to their
connections,
house.
yeah.
Like this is really happening. People are doing bank transfers and getting in Ubers and stuff. Like kids, like 14-year-old kids are coming to drop off your drugs to you. It's like what type of 30 years ago, like when our parents were smoking and stuff, could you imagine them buying a bag of weed off a 14-year-old when they were 20 or something?
God, no.
Like that's just how normal it is these days. You can basically walk up to a random in any spot and go, hey mate, do you know where to get a bag of weed? And they'll either go yeah or nah, and they'll direct you to someone.
Some
you know,
of the kids and their connections with things like that is nuts. Like, you wouldn't think
for sure
that they are children. Children would be able to
that's
do that
so
sort of stuff and access it too so
for
easily.
sure. With the connections thing, that's another big irony with the whole substance use is I've met people that I wholeheartedly love and adore and have amazing bonds and relationships with. And if I didn't smoke weed, we never would have met.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So at one time, you are meeting some dodgy, really bad people who maybe don't have your best interest at heart. But a lot of the time, you meet genuine people who really care about you. And because maybe you both turn to that particular substance for a reason, you know, you're both looking to get away from something, you vibe together and you can share that mutual feeling, that mutual understanding of, you know, trying to get away from something like that. It's just, people, like I said, humans are very social, very together. And when they have something as a common denominator, they will vibe over it. That's what they'll make happen.
I think the best possible advice I can give, you know, specifically from like personal experience, keep your shit clean.
Good on you, man.
If you're smoking out of a bong, clean it out.
Yep.
And I don't mean like, once every 2 weeks. I mean, clean it out
Every
every
day.
Yeah.
Obviously, it all depends on how much you're smoking.
Yeah, for sure.
But if you're like, you know, unfortunately, if you're around our age, you're smoking a 25 bag a day.
Yeah.
And if you're one of those people who are doing exactly that with your friendship group, clean it after that session.
That's it. I didn't know you could get emphysema from smoking bongs until I was 18. And I'd been smoking for 7 years at that point.
Yeah.
I think one thing we all forget too, especially with sharing bongs and stuff, is that how much passes through it.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
You pass sickness through them and all that sort of stuff, and we don't even realize. We just kind of go, go for it, have one.
Definitely.
Like, especially during COVID, you know, when that really cracked down, you know, I wasn't sharing anything with anybody, you know.
See all the homeless youth passing around stuff at the
exactly
park.
That. So keep your stuff clean. Wash your hands. Especially when you're chopping up, like, maybe this is more cannabis specific, but if you're chopping up your session, you want your fingers to be clean, man. You don't know what's on your hands, what's going into the
picking your nose,
because it's going straight into your lungs.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of the time, I don't think people think about that very much. Sounds weird. I'm kind of OCD about it.
It's good. Hygiene's a big problem, a big issue.
Hairs?
Yes. I get you with that.
Taylor, have you got any tips for anyone listening in today about maybe how to be safe around substance use or with your friends, or just any kind of pointers?
Never use illicit substances if you are in a negative mindset.
Always make sure you're in a happy mind state.
Otherwise, you're gonna
for sure,
just make yourself feel worse.
Definitely.
And do it around people that you're comfortable with.
Be safe.
Like, just
no. I'd say my biggest tip is never take drugs with someone the first time you've met them. Never, ever, ever. Even if you've briefly met them, but you've never sat down for an actual conversation, you never know anyone's intent. So I think definitely find out who you're taking drugs with and what that might look like. You know, what your guys' relationship is going to look like.
Sorry to butt in. I definitely think too, also be careful of where you are. Make sure you're in a safe place and not just on the road or whatever.
Sketchy car parks
in the middle of the
At
city.
1 o'clock
You
at
never
night.
know who could come up and
Definitely. No, awesome. Well, thanks for that, guys. I reckon we got a lot of stuff in there.
Thanks for having us. I've had a great time.
No, thank you. I really appreciate it. Appreciate you guys coming in and giving me some of your opinions and thoughts on everything. How the fuck do I wrap this up?
Gotta squish it.
My fucking outro so we can get out of here. Damn it. Thanks for listening today, guys. Appreciate you coming in. We had some good talks today, I think. Some good information, good discussions. We're going to be making this a regular thing, so I'll let you know whatever for that. But this is Puff and Pass.
Puff and
That's
Pass.
what we went for, Puff and Pass. This is Puff and Pass. We appreciate you guys listening today. It's been an honour to have you watching and listening wherever you are.
I'm going to look at this camera,
Thank you guys. Much love, much love. And yeah, that being said, we'll see you next week. Bye.
Yo.